Chelsea looking to extend their unbeaten run over Spurs to 5 games. In fact, they've won the last 4 against them. But then again, that is nothing new. Look through the history books. They don't lose to Tottenham very often.
Jam on a Chelsea.
Who would you rather be a fan of out of these two teams right now?
No, I think it's a good question, but I think you've got to say Chelsea. Yeah, look, £1.5 billion spent or whatever it is, and yet they still, I don't believe, have a squad that can really challenge for the title itself. And yet I do feel they're getting better and stronger with each year. Maresca's still learning on the job. It amazes me how... And where are you with Maresca right now? Because a lot of people I respect are just not having him in recent weeks.
Do you know what I think
You're a big fan, aren't you?
Do you know what I think it is?
The job that he's done is, in his first season, 2 trophies and a 4th place. There's lots of things to pick with him in terms of the substitutions he made with at Old Trafford and also against Brighton.
I think it's like the squad, right? So it's a very inexperienced squad that is inconsistent and that sometimes are very naive. They make silly mistakes and cost themselves points and games. You know, we saw that in Europe in the Champions League in the first game against Bayern Munich away from home. They were naive in the second half of that match and the game got away from them. That's what happens in the Champions League if you're not experienced enough to be able to deal with it. I think he has made some odd decisions in terms of selections. I think that every time you think that he's starting to get them into a rhythm, something will come up and it will, again, take a couple of steps backwards.
Is that down to him or the players?
I think it's a bit of both, but I don't think sometimes he helps himself. And I also, and I've got a big problem with this, and this is, Crook will tell you, I keep trotting out the same line, because he keeps trotting out the same line, which is every time they play against someone who changes their system in order to thwart Chelsea, he complains about it and talks about it as if it's a massive surprise, as if he was expecting Sunderland to turn up and play into Chelsea's hands. Other teams aren't going to do that. What other teams are going to do is, because you're the world champions and the Conference League champions and you spent £1.5 billion, funnily enough, they're going to find every trick in the book to try and stop you from performing. And if that means they change shape or defend deeper or put a different player in a different position, then you've got to be ready for that. You should be prepared. But he always talks in the aftermath of games as if that is a massive shock and it took them ages to be able to work it out. Well, they should have seen it coming, really.
I think it's difficult to see it coming. You don't know how a team's going to plan, but I do agree. Once you do see it,
you should have in your
change
mind
it in game within the first
of
10
what
minutes.
could happen.
I also don't know why you'd admit publicly that you've been schooled by
I agree.
Regis Lebris. I'm not sure what he had to achieve by making that public knowledge.
And there's all sorts of rumours about, him going off at the end of the season, or them shaking hands like they did with Maurizio Sarri at the end of that season. You'll remember it, where it just didn't fit, so it moved him on or whatever. The thing about Chelsea, and we know, they're never going to have a long-term manager. It just doesn't work like that. It will only ever be 2 or 3 years, and then somebody else will come in. That's Look, what happens.
We could go on, but we should mention Spurs here,
oh, yes.
I suppose.
Let's talk about Tottenham Hotspur, because I think they're in a different zone, aren't they? They're in a... Thomas Frank is in the first era of his management tenure at Tottenham, and that is, let's make it really difficult for teams to beat us first, and then we'll try and inject a bit of adventure. I mean, Tottenham fans are a bit sort of like... the results are good and we're still scoring goals. Joint top goal scorers in the Premier League. But it doesn't feel Tottenham, does it?
No, Mickey van der Ven's got a fair few of those, hasn't he? And
he's a top scorer.
2 from set pieces at Everton last week. 3-0 flattered Spurs. Obviously, I was at the game. Everton were better than the scoreline suggested, but Spurs were clinical when it mattered. Still didn't create a huge amount of chances from open play.
Vic's made a load of saves, hasn't he?
Yeah.
In the game.
He did against Monaco as well. He was man of the match by a million miles.
I mean, he does have problems from set pieces and high balls, but he does make a lot of saves.
Yeah, and he might have to this weekend because I think Chelsea are the more adventurous team. They probably are the more aesthetically pleasing on the eye. But as you say, I don't think Tottenham fans can really complain about the league position when you've got a manager coming in who's the complete opposite, really, of his predecessor. So obviously he's trying to change the style, but he's getting results along the way. They weren't great in midweek without Newcastle. No. They were disappointing.
Xavi Simons has struggled, hasn't
he? Yeah. Did he have his best game? Again, you were there.
Not at Newcastle, no.
I've heard he showed moments that... No,
his best game, I think, was in the game at Leeds. I thought he played better in that match than he
Okay.
did at Newcastle.
Okay.
He had a few moments in the game, but it was not consistent enough. He gave the ball away far too many times. He wasn't secure enough in possession.
It's very difficult for almost any Premier League club to complain about injuries, but they're almost double figures, if not over double figures into the injuries that they've got. It does make me laugh of, Spurs fans weren't happy with Ange and how bad they were defensively. Well, Thomas Frank came in and said, right, that's the first thing I'm going to try and sort out. They are third in the league, and yet they're still scoring goals, and yet the football's not kind of good enough for some of the fans. I mean, this is going to take time, and Thomas Frank, I believe, is the right manager for Spurs. I think he's very adaptable. I think he's really sort of football intelligent. Certainly knows how to play the media as well. Well, not play the media, but just get them on side and explain things. This is very much a project, and he needs time. And obviously, with Daniel Levy not around, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens, not just in the January window, but next summer. And it needs to be given a little bit of time, at least a year, before we start.
Absolutely.
judging.
Look, I think he's a great guy. I think he's a very good manager. To have secured that defence with basically pretty much the same personnel. He's lost Romero for a part of the season as well, and he's made Kevin Danso into Van der Ven's partner, and he's done very well with that. He used Paulinho as a centre half in midweek. He hasn't had a striker to talk of either, because Tell is inconsistent. He's a very young player. Kolo Muani's been injured. Solanke has been injured, and Richarlison is in and out. They do need a striker, I think, in the summer. Someone to be a little bit different to Solanke as well, because Solanke's more of a sort of hold-up man and a presser or whatever, but I think they need someone to run in behind.
Yeah, I keep coming back to Ivan Toney. I mean, obviously it's not easy to get players out of Saudi Arabia for tax reasons, but obviously he's someone who played well under Thomas Frank at Brentford. They've got a good relationship. I think he'd be perfect for this Tottenham team, and I feel like he's still probably got unfinished business in the Premier League.
Has Harry Kane got a...
He's not coming back.
I'm just...
He's got a
just throwing it
clause.
out there.
He's not
got a
coming
He's
clause.
back.
got a release clause, but I don't think he leaves Bayern Munich.
He's never
No,
coming
I don't
back.
either.
Have you seen how well he's getting on there?
Yeah. And if
Have you
he
seen how
does
well
leave
he's playing?
Bayern, he's not going back to Tottenham.
He is playing the best football of his life.
Yeah.
He is dropping in, picking the ball up like a quarterback, spraying passes all over the place, finishing moves, scoring goals. He's having the time of his life. He's not going
I go back
anywhere.
to that Chelsea game where he was brilliant as a 9, brilliant as a 10, brilliant as a 6.
He's unbelievable. He is in, and do you know what? I don't know what it is. The fitness regime, the training regime, the diet.
Well, let's hope he's fit at the end of the season,
Let's
then,
hope
shall
it,
we?
because he is in absolutely sensational form. Talking of big number 9s that could play for England, Liam Delap came off the bench after 7 weeks with an injury, got one yellow card, and then picked up another one, and the second one actually could have been a straight red, to be honest. So he was pretty lucky not to have been sent off and then given a 3-match ban. It's just a 1-match ban, but he misses this huge match against Tottenham Hotspur. It's a problem for Chelsea because that's 6 red cards in 9 games if you include the managers.
And it was a brainless one, much like the João Pedro one in the Champions League, totally unnecessary. And obviously he missed a game in that competition. Delap probably would have started at the weekend, and his physicality maybe would have been an issue for Spurs. To get himself sent off in that manner is ridiculous, really. And again, it comes back to what you're saying about naivety. A lot of the cards that Chelsea have picked up have been utterly avoidable.
Well, 4 of the 6 have been second yellows, and that is an indiscipline problem, isn't it? And actually, when you go back to the Maresca discussion again, one of the issues I have with it is that he didn't stamp on that when it first became a problem. It was a little bit like at the end of last season, actually, when I spoke to him in the tunnel and I said to him, you've given away more penalties than anybody else in the Premier League this season. How are you going to stop that? And he said, have we? And at that point, you're thinking, you should probably know that.
Yeah, and he may well know that.
He may well know.
Doesn't like
exactly.
for you to bring it up.
Maybe,
and obviously,
maybe.
Don't argue with Sam Matterface. That's what I would say.
That's not where I was going. Hold on a second.
That's what I'll just say.
Hold on a second. Just remember, today is about picking on him, okay? Not me.
He's doing well. He's only sweated about half a stone off at the moment.
It is warm in the studio, by the way.
He's the one who didn't turn up. He's the one yet wearing yesterday's clothes.
He's done well just to turn up, however late he was.
To be fair, you have warmed up a little bit, haven't you?
But you can't not warm up in this studio. It's about 38 degrees.
It's actually not, by the way. The aircon's on. But anyway, sorry, what was the question?
I can't remember. Anyway, the only thing I worry about with Liam Delap and the possibility of him actually trying to deputise for Harry Kane going further down the line is that sort of discipline issue, because actually he's a bit like that. He's done it before. When he was at Ipswich, he was a bit sort of robust, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the question was, Maresca hasn't sorted out the red cards. He needs to find a way. I mean, back in the day, just the threat of a 2-week fine would be enough for us to kind of sort that out. I don't know if it is anymore, but he needs to find a way to scare the players into saying you can't be doing this. But there's only so much a manager can do, Sam. You look at Malagusta with the sending off he did there. You look at Nicholas Jackson, what he did in the Club World Cup. Once a player gets past that white line, it's down to the player. And for Liam Delap, and he's told him, Maresca, he was asked in a press conference afterwards, I told him 4 or 5 times between the 2 yellow cards, be very careful. And you're absolutely right. I think that was a straight red, not a second yellow, because his elbow did kind of go up and go towards the
two
head.
goes at him.
Honestly, they've got to find a way. He's got to find a way. I don't necessarily blame him, but he's got to find a way. I mean, even his own red card was a joke. I mean, how can you not celebrate a last-minute winner against the champions? But it is what it is. I don't have a problem with that one. But he's got to find a way, because that's a big loss, Liam Delap. Whether he would have started or not, he's not available now for the biggest game of the season for Chelsea.
Yep, Tottenham away on Saturday at 5:30.